think this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part.
We're just the guys to do it.
Let's do it.
Hello, listeners, and in what should be a small week in football because we've got the bye, it actually has turned out to be a pretty big week. A few things going on, and right off the top, I've got something big, real big. But before that, joining me, as always, is the man with the golden tonsils, Al McGovern. Welcome, Al.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ash, how are we?
Yes, much better than what I was last time we went to air. That is for sure.
You do sound a bit fluey now that I think about it.
Oh yeah, I've got the flu voice now.
Yeah, it's come through in full swing.
Yeah. But oh well, look, Wednesday night I had the sexy Kelly Underwood voice down pat. Yeah. It's funny. I was mucking around on Chat GPT or whatever it's called,
Mm-hmm.
and I just typed in Kelly Underwood, and the thing that came back said that she had a voice like honey.
Well,
Hey,
that's interesting.
That's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, that's not a fact.
I personally don't have an issue with Kelly's voice, but
No, I actually like Kelly. She says some sort of things sometimes, but they all do.
yeah. All right. Well, so I got something big.
Oh, okay, lay it on me.
I'm going to ease into it. It's a bit of breaking news, a bit of a scoop. I didn't
Oof.
get it from Big Footy.
So it's
Yeah.
probably true then.
I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to drop some names, and I want you to tell me which ones of these guys I was right about over the years coming to the Brisbane Lions.
Okay.
Dane Beams,
Yes.
Alan Christensen,
Yes.
Charlie Cameron,
Yes.
Lockie Neal.
Yes.
Well, actually, I thought it was Andrew Gaff, but we realised pretty quickly that it wasn't him, it was Lockie Neal, so credit where it's due.
Yep.
You and I still realised it was Lockie Neal before the press got hold of that, though.
True. That's right.
Jared Lyons,
Yes.
Joe Danaher.
Yes.
I reckon I dropped that one to you about a year and a half out
Yeah, that was pretty good, that one.
when Dodoro was trying to stop him going to Sydney, and I was like, guess what? He ain't going there. He's coming here. Jack McRae.
Yes, you did say that one. That one didn't pan out.
Yeah, I got that one totally wrong. I remember saying to you, today's a bit of an audition for Jack McRae against us. I was up at the Gabba and he got 40 and we were up and about, and I was thinking, yeah, buddy, 40 disposals on our deck. How good would that be every week?
Yeah, true.
And now he's the sub and playing a bit of VFL for the Dogs. So
Yeah, I don't think we missed out much there.
yeah,
Maybe at the time, but no long term, probably not.
premiership player, kicked the winning goal to get the Dogs through to that grand final that year.
True.
And a lot of Victorians took him on because, he kicked the winning goal in the prelim to sink the Giants.
Yep.
But we missed him. It doesn't matter because we got Lockie Neal at the same time.
True.
And
That was a good year.
Jared Lyons, who gave us really good service in the midfield for a couple of years as well.
Yep.
So,
I'll just add as well, I called a few in advance. I called Cam Ellis-Yolman.
You certainly did, and that was a long way out as well.
I called that like two years out, I think.
Easily, yeah.
And then Josh Dunkley.
Yep, you did.
And Connor McKenna.
You did, and I did not believe you at first.
Yeah.
I was like, he's not coming back to Australia. He loves it in Ireland. I've been watching his social media. He loves it being home.
Nope. Yeah, so like you've called quite a few, and I've called a couple.
Yeah.
And we've got a pretty good strike rate on these things.
Yeah, I reckon you've called a few more as well. So, but
those are just the only ones at the top of my head I could think of.
Yeah, but this is not about you. It's about me, all right?
No, that's true. Oh, you have the floor. Let's hear it.
Not really. It's not really about me. I just so end of 2025, there's a bloke over in the West. He's a key forward who can also be a key back and a ruckman.
Yeah.
He's becoming a free agent.
Mm.
We have a guy by the name of Dev Robertson who may be coming out of contract at the same time.
Yep.
Not playing a lot of senior footy.
No.
Probably going to find it hard to consistently break into that midfield we've got, especially now with Jared Berry playing some good footy as a permanent mid, pretty much.
And he came straight back into the VFL after being injured and hasn't really kicked the door down since. That was a couple of weeks ago too.
Yeah. So this guy, and I'm going to name him now. All right. So, but firstly, so Don Fay raised on the Raw deal this week that the club was looking at a key forward as a Joe Danaher replacement for the long term.
Yeah.
So this guy's probably about 23 or so at the moment.
He's 25. He was the same draft as Rayner.
Oh, there you go. So Rayner's 24. So, yeah, so 24, 25.
Yep.
It's going to be 26 at the end of next year, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Prime years, like that's an easy 6 years out of this guy.
Easily.
Yeah. And obviously you know who I'm talking about because I did give you a heads up.
Yep.
And so Don Fay was about to name this guy as well, but he got hushed by the great man Mike Whiting.
Yep.
So this is no secret. Obviously people know. And ironically, one of my good mates, Sam Porter, who a lot of Lions fans will know Sam, especially a lot of AFLW fans, and they'll know Sam's daughters as well, who've been in a lot of promos for the Lions AFLW over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Messaged me today, and we're having a bit of a chat about exactly what Don Fay said, and he goes, "Oh, I reckon, and I really hope it's going to be Oscar Allen from the West Coast Eagles."
Mm.
And all of a sudden, I started having to bite my tongue because it is to the very best of my knowledge, and let's just say strike rate has been pretty good over the years, as we know now.
That's true.
Oscar Allen is in the sights of our football club at the end of next year.
Yep.
If not before. Now, there's
a chance. He's free agent next year, but there's always a chance of earlier.
Now, he's a restricted free agent next year.
Yep.
1 year left on his contract at the end of this year. Now, he's currently a club captain, but he's injured. The thing is, everybody at West Coast gets injured pretty regularly.
Yes, that's true.
There are not many
in the last couple of years.
Yeah, there's not. Oh, excuse me. Not many guys over at the Eagles who play pretty regular, consistent footy. I mean, even Elliot Yeo got back from his OP that he'd had for about 3 years. Was playing awesome footy. Then he got injured again.
Yep.
That's kind of how the cycle goes at the Eagles. Oscar Allen's had a few little injuries that have kept him out here and there. Pretty
he
sure.
Had a knee a few years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he played every game last year.
Mm.
Now, I was asked back in January and I looked at the screenshot, the 27th of January, who I would love to have from another club, any player to come to my club that will be the missing piece in a puzzle going forward for the future. And I said Oscar Allen, but I'd already heard a whisper.
Mm.
And as you know, I've got a lot of connections over in the West.
That's true.
I grew up over there, still know a lot of people, and maybe I know a couple of footballers over there as well.
And we should clarify, when you say the West, you mean the state of West Australia, not the news agency, the West.
Yes, that is correct. Although, my God, the newspaper would absolutely have kittens because, as the Freo fans love to tell us, it's owned by a company, Seven West Media, I think they're called, who also part own the Eagles.
True. Yeah, no bias.
Not at all. No. Although, having said that, at the moment, other than having Harley Reid on the front and back page and centre spread and a lift out every issue of every day of the week, except for Sunday, because that's a different newspaper.
Yeah.
They're not giving the Eagles as much coverage, but look, I reckon this Oscar Allen thing's got legs. So I don't know what your thoughts are, but
Yeah, well, so before you and I spoke and you told me that, I tried to do a bit of legwork on the rumor, just to try and see who in the competition could fit that profile. Would have to be a decent name, someone that's already kind of proven themselves.
yep.
I don't think, people would be necessarily, falling over themselves with excitement at the prospect of someone who's either way too young to have proven themselves or is basically at the door of retirement. So that whittled it down a bit.
Yeah, so we're not getting Tom Hawkins or Elliot Himmelberg, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much, and not Taylor Walker or guys like that. No.
I don't think we'd want Taylor Walker anyway. Just between you and me.
No. Well, there's we went through a list and we whittled it down to only being a couple that we would that made sense really.
Yep.
And I come to the conclusion that Oscar had made the most sense, and then we kind of connected at the same time. We both kind of had the same thought, but came to it in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's interesting one. So mine was a complete guess, but yours is a bit more than a guess.
Well, let's just say that I had to try and beat it out of someone earlier this year. And when you're 3,500 miles away from each other, you can't really physically assault someone and waterboard them to get the information out of them. So I had to trick him.
Yep.
And they basically said to me, yeah, you've got something there, but don't count your chickens. Because, he got made club captain pretty quickly for a reason. So,
oh, yeah, look, it's, wouldn't necessarily be a super easy thing to do. There'd be a lot of work behind the scenes that would have to get done to make that possible.
Yeah.
They're not going to let go of him too easily.
Oh,
unless he's desperate to leave.
And that's why I flagged the possibility. Look, restricted free agent, but I don't think we're going to get the free agency side of things done. It's going to have to go to a trade.
Yeah. For sure. They're not just going to let him walk.
Like Jeremy Cameron or Patrick Dangerfield to Geelong, they're the two sort of that we know of, that everyone sort of knows about. There's been a couple more here and there, I think, that weren't as famous as those two guys.
Sure.
And look, we'll move on from that, but I want to address the Charlie Cameron stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like, a couple of weeks ago, I brought this up with Neil, I think, when you had to leave early from one of the episodes.
Yep.
Basically, what it was at the very beginning was Mitch Cleary or one of those guys, Cal Toomey, Riley Beveridge, one of those guys was asked, what does Carlton need to win the flag going forward? And he said, well, look, the missing piece of their puzzle is a really good small forward, like this guy, or Charlie Cameron. I can't remember the other three guys. Don't really care.
Yep.
And it sort of grew legs for about a day. Then it disappeared because, it was like, whatever. There's still, 16 or 17 games in this season to go.
Yep.
And then suddenly we lose. Chuck kicks 1 goal, 4 and 1 out of bounds or whatever it was he got.
Yep.
And as has been happening all year, when we lose a game and we look poor, the old Vic media, and I'm really loath to say the Vic media. I've chewed people out for going, the Vic media, this Vic bias. But it is coming loud and clear from Melbourne-based journalists this time around, some of whom have connections to the Carlton Football Club or the Essendon Football Club or the Richmond Football Club, whatever, that suddenly is like, clubs are talking to him. They think he's gettable. Well, as we proved with Jack McRae, it's my understanding we were talking to him for about 2.5 years.
Yep.
And didn't mean that we got him, did it?
No, and that's the thing is, like, there's a lot of work that can go through with these in advance, and it may get so close, but then just fall over at the last minute. So then no one knows it happened.
Yeah.
And like, well, from the public doesn't know that it happened.
Yeah, and you and I have had so many, amateur list management conversations over the years. Like Dad said, if we actually had to do it for a job, we'd probably fail pretty miserably because.
Oh, what are you talking about? I listen to my trade radio every year. That's the qualification that I need, right?
Oh yeah, Matt Rendell and Steve Silvani.
Yeah,
taught me everything I know.
Rest in peace, Matt Rendell.
Oh, geez, he was a bloody good footballer. Like, he had his peak footballing years when I was 10, 11, 12, and we started getting the VFL on TV. So I was blessed to see him at his absolute best All-Australian form.
Yep.
But yeah, geez, as a guy on trade radio, he was a bit of a nonsense, face it.
He was, for sure.
Like, some of I always make fun of the North Melbourne supporters that ring into SEN every trade period going, if we swap pick 74, pick 182, this guy that hasn't even played a VFL game has been on their list for 6 years, and the guy who just retired will get Patrick Cripps, Marcus Bontempelli and Lockie Neal, and yeah, they'll probably throw in Harley Reid for good measure, just to sweeten the deal with a bit of steak knives for us.
The infamous war chest.
Yeah, and that was Matty Rendell to a T, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he would come up with these massive, big, Carlton are going to swap some ex-GWS reserves player for whoever won the Brownlow that year, and it's going to be a straight swap,
Yep. Well, Carlton was always going to win the trade period, and then they never did.
Yeah, a bit like Essendon every year. We're going to be active this year, and yeah, not really, because Dodoro notoriously hard to deal with.
Well, that, but also like it just seems like they either ruin players that they get in, or they're just so off the mark on who they think is going to be really good, but ends up being a C or D list player.
Yeah, well, I mean, they listen too much to your best mate, who we won't name, about Tom Cutler. Let's face it. Like, the bloke was he was on the phone to Dodoro daily, like, mate, you got to get Tom Cutler in.
He was a one-man fan club, that guy.
Oh, and his twin brother, Tony Butler. Like, these two guys are the two premiership pieces. You don't need anyone else in your midfield. You just need Tom and Tony. Hey, look, I love Tom Cutler too. Like, he's a really nice guy.
Oh, yeah. Grew
up as a Lions supporter. And I'm going to bring up some people who grew up as Lions supporters a little bit later. Okay. And I remember actually being asked by someone to take a photo of him and Kevin Murray, the great Kevin Murray, at a Brisbane Lions family day. He went up to Kevin Murray. He'd bought a Fitzroy history book for himself, Tom, got Kevin to sign it, put the Brownlow around his neck, as we all love doing.
Yep.
And someone from the club, I don't know who it was, I've never seen him since, just come up and said, can you just quickly snap a photo of Tom? And I'm assuming it was Tom's phone.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. But yeah, and I was like, hell yeah, got my phone out and snap one with the other hand as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, lovely guy, Tom Cutler.
I always liked him. I just, it was funny during that period of time where there was a particular person that just thought he was the answer to every problem that we had.
But so I guess that brings us around now. So talking about the draft.
Yes.
And mature players.
Yes.
We had a draft this week.
We did. We were one of the busiest clubs in the draft.
Yeah, the mid-season.
If not the busiest club.
Yeah, well, we picked up 3 guys. We passed on one. Mm-hmm. I think we went in and got guys on a needs basis. When you identify the positions these guys play, it sort of looks that way to me. Yeah,
well, they're all kind of they're all from different states, and they all do something a little different from each other on the field too.
Yeah. So, well, you were pretty big on Will McLaughlin.
I was
last episode. Do you want to tell us a bit more about him?
Yeah. So there's not a huge amount to say, but I did kind of predict ahead of time that we would pick him up. So he's 19 this year, so he was overlooked in the last year's draft.
Yep.
He's a bit of a small forward / midfielder. I'm not really sure why he was overlooked. It wasn't really mentioned anywhere, but he just wasn't picked up for one reason or another. But he's a bit of a gun. He played 6 games this year for Geelong Falcons. And
Yep.
he kicked 26 goals
Yeah, I
in 6
mean,
games.
that's 4 goals a game.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's going, and that's a pretty tough competition. I actually reckon what's it called now? The Coach League, I think the Coach Development League or something.
That's right. Yeah.
I rate that as a stronger competition than the VFL.
Yeah. Look, I can see your logic, and I can see where you're coming from. I don't know enough about it to kind of put my foot in one camp or the other.
Yeah,
I guess if we go by history, it's a bit mixed. It's a bit of both in terms of guys who get their shot in terms of like rookie drafts and mid-season drafts, things like that, pre-season supplementals, all that sort of stuff. It's always a mix between someone who's been at the top level already, didn't work out, having the second go now, and guys who were overlooked or guys that have shot out of nowhere and weren't even on the radar last year. It's all kind of a bit of a mix, but
yeah.
I'm really bullish on Will McLaughlin, who was our first of the selections. I think pick 6, I think he was.
Yeah, so yeah, he's a boy from Colac, which is a pretty good breeding ground. Luke Hodge is a Colac boy. John O'Brien grew up in Colac for about the first 12 years of his life. His old man is a Colac footy legend. Won a lot of premierships as a player and coach.
Yeah, so he's got a good grab, and we know he can kick, and apparently he's pretty fast as well.
Yeah.
So I think he got some notes about his work ethic not being great last year, and I think that may have been one of the reasons that he was overlooked.
Yeah.
But I think he's taken that into consideration, and Knoll basically mentioned that it seems like he's really put in the effort to improve that in the 6 months or so since the draft, and he's been just knocking it out of the park ever since, and that's why we picked him up and we went out of our way to make him the first selection. So, and because he's 19 as well, like there's potential for him to be on the list for a long time and develop for a couple of years and actually be an important contributor going forward.
Yeah, and what that does as well is that then frees up selections in the national draft at the end of the season to pick up guys that are a bit younger and whatever, where we did the same thing with Kalen Lane. We picked him up as on a 6-month rookie contract, and he's still here 3 years later.
Yeah, that's true. We're getting an extra 6 months development into McLaughlin now, as opposed to picking someone else up in November. Yeah,
that's it. And he's around the boys, he's around the club. It's like the guys that go to academies and whatever. Like Jamara Ugle-Hagan at the Bulldogs, he was around their NGA academy for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right.
And just slotted seamlessly into their program once he got drafted. And he was
already familiar with all of his teammates before he went there.
And the facilities and the way they go about it at that club and whatever.
Yep.
So we picked up 2 other guys, and I'll address these 2.
Mm-hmm.
So Luke Beacon from Woodville, West Torrens in South Australia.
Yep, Sample boy.
Yeah, 23 years old, 184 centimetres, so not huge. Plays a bit of half back. I would say the guy he's probably closest to at our club, and this might be the reason why we picked him up, is probably Kitty Coleman.
Yep.
He racks up, sort of the 20 to 24-ish disposals every week. He's pretty creative with his usage. He got 24 in a state match against the Waffle a couple of weeks ago. A lot of the experts at both the Waffle and the Sample were up and about and really bullish on him.
Yeah, and because of his age, you say he's 24, right?
23.
23.
Yeah.
So guys that are over about that 21, 22 mark, they're usually a bit more physically ready to go as well.
Yeah.
So he could be someone that kind of comes back in and has an immediate impact. I mean, he obviously might not be. We don't know if he's at the level. We won't know until we try him out. But because of the way he's been playing and because of his age and his size, I think he could make an immediate impact if needed. And that's the whole point of the draft.
Yeah. Well. And look, my favourite player at the club, Connor McKenna, is not having a good year.
No.
He's having a bit of a mare, as they like to say in the Vic media, and now a few other pods have started using that term.
That's true, but he's had a couple of little small injuries to start off with, and just probably rocked his confidence a little bit.
Yeah, so Neil and I were a bit critical of him on Sunday against the Hawks. we noticed that quite often he would not be on a man, sort of just doing his own thing, but then start complaining that someone wasn't on the guy he was meant to be on.
Yeah.
And look, that's not saying that he's doing anything bad, but what it is when your confidence is down, your form's really nowhere near it. That's what happens. You get frustrated.
Yep.
And you lash out.
That's right.
And we've had this discussion about a couple of guys at the club before. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I think Luke Beacon's probably a good, give him some VFL exposure to see how he goes.
Well, he's played over 50 Sandford games, so he's got some experience. He's won a flag in that, and he's represented the SA state side as well.
Yeah, so. and look, he's a goal kicker. He's like kicked 20-odd goals in his Sandford career. So I'm just having a look now. This season in the Sandford, he's averaging 22.7 disposals.
It's pretty good for a defender.
94% efficiency.
Jeez, I like that.
That's that. And look, the Sandford is a pretty crash and bash tough comp.
Yeah.
I got a couple of mates over there who have some small involvement in a couple of clubs. Not this particular club that he's been recruited from, but yeah, they've sort of mentioned to me a couple of times during the year, this kid looks all right.
Yep.
I never, in my wildest dreams, even thought that he'd be on our radar. To be honest, I thought, surely we're going to get a couple of the guys we've got, and I'm going to get to that. But firstly, so I like the cut of his jib, and I think we're both up and about with McLaughlin as well.
Yeah, well, Beacon's got a haircut you can set your watch to, so I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. So, Grandpa Simpson will be very, very pleased with that.
Yep, well done.
Got to chuck in a Simpsons reference.
Of course, man. It's what we do.
Speaking of which, I listen to this Simpsons podcast every now and then when I remember.
Yeah.
And it's called Four Finger Discount. So if you like the Simpsons, these guys know their stuff. And I mean the name Four Finger Discount.
Yep.
Turns out these two guys live within a couple 100 meters of me.
Oh, geez.
I'm talking on one of their episodes about where they live, and I'm like, those landmarks are goddamn familiar.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Is that your podcast recommendation?
No. I just slung that one in because it came to my head as I was speaking. And as you know, I quite often speak without realizing what I'm saying.
That's true. That's what we're looking for.
So, the other guy we picked up is Darcy Craven from the East Perth Football Club, the Mighty Royals, who I've barracked for since I was a child.
Yep.
Played a little league game for them when I was in probably year 3 or 4.
Yep.
Big occasion. So I've loved that football club ever since. The great Kevin Murray played a couple of seasons there.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Judd played one game. And his coach told his teammates to take a good hard look at him because they'll never see him in a black and blue jersey ever again. He's like, brutal. He's like, this guy won't be coming back to the reserves ever again. Because they were the Eagles reserves back then.
Yeah.
Polly Farmer played for him. Brownlow medalist Ross Glendinning. So, pretty good club. Nick Robertson plays there currently.
Oh, yep.
Old mate, Nicky James Robbo.
Mm-hmm.
So this fella, Darcy Craven, he's 20 years old. Only a little fella, 174 centimetres, so that's about 5'7", 5'8".
He's a true small forward.
66 kilos, so he's taller than Dane Zorko, but he's about, 14 kilos lighter because Zorko is built like a Sherman tank.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's 12, 13 pre-seasons in the gym.
Yeah, and that's also, for want of a better description, small man's syndrome does to a man. Hey, I am, I'm, probably a couple inches shorter than you, so I suffer a little bit from that sometimes too. So, look, he's pretty good. He's a, small forward. Hasn't played a lot of league football. So they call it league football in WA and SA.
Yep.
Only did 3 games at league level. Not hasn't got a lot of the ball at this stage or kicked a lot of goals, but he's shown promise. And one of his teammates, Hamish Brayshaw, who's in the media a fair bit. Now, I can't remember if he said this on one of the 3 or 4 podcasts he's on, or if it was on Triple M over there. He talked him up a bit, talked Darcy Craven up a bit, and Murdoch, one of his other teammates, whose first name I can't remember because, COVID fog or whatever.
Yep.
And it sort of made my ears prick up a little bit, but then I thought, we don't need another guy that's under 5'8". We've got plenty of those.
He's definitely going to be a bit more of a project player than the other two.
That's what I was about to get to.
A bit more of a gamble.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of leading into by saying he hasn't played a lot of league footy or, done a lot on field for the league team yet. Yeah, he's played 2, 4, 4 reserves games, 3 league games. And he played all the preseason in the reserves as well for the Royals.
Mm-hmm.
28 Colts games. Trying to find out how many goals he kicked in those Colts games. So that's under 19s.
It's a bit harder to find stats for state league sometimes, isn't it?
No, the waffle's really good. It's just that they have so many stats, you've got to keep sort of scrolling across.
Yep.
And when your phone's not on landscape, it takes a while.
True.
In his Colts and reserves career, he's kicked 18 goals, 27, so he'll fit right in with us.
Oh, yeah, okay.
At league level, he's going at 6 goals, 3 at the moment. So, yeah, he's lively and he's raw, but he's got promise.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah, there's a bit to work with, and he's got some good guys around him for the next 6 months at the very least.
True, and that's an important note as well. We don't know the length of these guys' contracts. They can elect to have 6-month or 12-month contracts.
Yeah. Is it 6 or 8 or 18?
No, it's 6 and 12, I think.
So, but that would only take him to midway through next year, though.
Yeah, it gives them time to opt in for the next draft if they get dropped.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm with you on that. Yeah, so he's got Charlie Cameron, multiple All-Australian small forward. He's got Lincoln McCarthy, and you can bet your bottom dollar, and we don't endorse advertising of gambling.
No.
So that was just a slip of the tongue there.
More money in the jar, mate.
Yeah. God, that's that's an $80 bucket, that one. You can guarantee Lincoln McCarthy's going to be working with him.
For sure. I mean, now that he's in rehab as well, he's got a lot more free time. Zach
Bailey, Cam Rayner even. I think we've seen his best football as a sort of a mid to small, third tall forward. I'm sure we're going to talk about that again a bit later.
Yeah, well, we in the mailbag there's a question about that. We'll touch on that.
Yeah. I guess we've got a bit to work with those 3 guys, and as I said, I think 2 of them are definitely on an immediate needs basis, maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on the ones we got this time. I wasn't as keen in the last couple of years. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Callum Lane. I'm still kind of not really. I mean, I love him. He's a Lion, but in terms of seeing the potential, seeing the long term, didn't really see much. But with these guys, the first 2, Beacon and McLaughlin, I can definitely see some long term prosperity there.
Yeah.
Craven's probably got a little bit more time, needs a bit more time to develop and show what he's got. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the selection.
And I think he's got to add a bit of size as well.
Yeah, he's very small.
At Waffle League level or Waffle Reserves level, it's a big difference compared to AFL senior level.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think Beacon out of the 3 is probably the guy most likely to play senior level first.
Yeah, okay.
Just
because he's a bit older.
Yeah, he's older, but also because that is one area we still haven't found the right guy to take Kitty's spot. I know Zorko's playing down there, playing a similar role, but he's not playing the exact same role.
No, that's right.
But,
And McKenna's a bit off, like
McKenna's, been a bit off. Answorth is sort of doing that Starcevic lockdown role.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting because, I mean, we'll talk about that in our Bulldogs preview because we don't have to do that this week, obviously.
Yeah.
But Starcevic is expected to be back either for the Bulldogs game or the game after that.
Yeah, I think so. And, he's one of those guys who I think just comes straight back in.
Yeah, but then it's a matter of who comes out. It's more
the
harder question, I think. Of course, he's an immediate in, but yeah, someone's going to come out.
That's going to be a horses for courses scenario, I think, for depending on opponent matchups and all that. And I think I said that when Answorth first came into the team earlier in the year, and hasn't he grabbed it with both hands?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
he did better than I thought he would.
Yeah, And, even on against Hawthorn, I had no cause for concern with his game that day.
Yep.
I might have gotten a little bit crook at him for high-fiving a player that kicked it directly to a Hawthorn forward that went for a goal. But I mean, we're all human. We're not infallible.
That's true.
So I guess speaking of the VFL, which we weren't really, but we kind of were.
Segue.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that game against Box Hill.
Oh, I thought we already covered that, didn't we?
No, not really. We talked about it between ourselves.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, it was a bit of the opposite of the senior game, to be honest.
Yeah.
In fact, it was a bit more of a schmacking, which, I watched that one because it was on the Saturday, and obviously the senior game was on the Sunday. So I watched it with, a bit of trepidation because I was going, I knew our history against Hawthorn and, we've had some pretty rough years against them, and we absolutely smacked their reserves, and we had a pretty, undersized reserves because, we had a lot of injuries. We got a lot of academy guys and, people's brothers and stuff getting chucked into the VFL team. So I was really unsure how it was going to go, but it was a big win. So they kicked 4 goals 10 to be 34 points.
Yep.
And we kicked 15-12 to be 102 points. So it was a smacking.
Yeah, and what we did mention, and it was really briefly in the previous episode, was that Box Hill were 2 goals 9 at one stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I watched that and I thought, we don't have a huge amount of stars in our VFL team. Like we had Lyons kick 4 goals, Tunstall kicked 3, Smith kicked 2, and then Robertson was playing all right, but then apart from that, there was a lot of just really young and inexperienced guys.
Yeah, I think one of the young academy guys or a fill-in kicked 3, I think, or have I got that completely wrong?
So Dirksen kicked 3.
Yeah, that's who it was, yeah.
Yeah, Dirksen kicked 3, which was a nice surprise. But I thought, okay, maybe we're on here. I had a bit more confidence going into the senior game the next day than I probably would have otherwise. But we know how that ended.
Yeah.
Another interesting point about the VFL game is Chad Wingard was playing in the VFL.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So he did an Achilles late last season, and that takes a bit of time. Some people say that an Achilles is worse than an ACL, and then other people say it's not. All I know is that it would be pretty bloody painful and a long road to recovery. But he's obviously back and looking fit. But yeah, he didn't show me enough in that game to suggest that the Hawks are going to put him in their senior team anytime soon.
Well, they probably don't need to. I mean, he did kick 2 goals. He was their biggest goal scorer. They had a couple of individual goal scorers after that I never even heard of.
Yeah.
So he was one of their better players, but, I don't think that they desperately need him back anytime soon.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Their form, they've won, 4 of their last 5, and they probably should have won that one against Port Adelaide as well.
Yeah, and another point of note is Shadow Brain got injured in the first quarter.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think it was a calf or a hammy.
I probably should have chosen my words better in my notes here. I just wrote brain injury.
Yeah.
And that's
Confuse yourself.
me who has the brain injury, because I should have written brain, injury, or, like a hyphen or something.
Yeah.
So apologies to Shadow Brain and his 12 siblings and mum and dad for writing that he may have had a brain injury.
Yeah.
It was a hamstring, I believe.
Yeah, a hamstring or a calf, I think, one of the two. But yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, you hate to see people get injured, but it just seems like we're having some pretty rotten luck. We get someone back and then we lose someone at the moment. But yeah, it was a good win. I think we overtook them on the ladder in the VFL because of that. No, they stayed above us.
That last jug time goal they got just snuck them back in front of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they're 107%. We're 105.1.
Yeah,
and we have a bye this weekend. So
yeah, and there's some weird things that happen with the VFL ladder as well in the finals and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
which we'll go into later in the season when it's actually relevant to the conversation. Lions obviously was his usual self as well. They've shifted him forward in the last quarter as a standalone forward.
He's in this kind of weird no man's zone at the moment, isn't
he?
He's way too good for VFL, but he just doesn't seem up to it when he gets a senior shot. And it's kind of the same with Dev as well.
Yeah. So with Dev, I know he got a lot of the ball and the commentators were all over him, but I didn't feel like he used it well. And
no, I mean, statistically, he was one of our better players, but I didn't think watching the game that he was one of our best players.
And that's the one criticism I've had of Dev is that his ball usage is not great. I've had some roaring arguments with fans who will tell me, no, he's actually one of the best ball users at the club. So you see what you see, and nobody's right or wrong. They may have seen the day that he had a good one, and I saw him on a wet, muddy day at Icon Park or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. The comparison between someone who you look at the stats at the end of the game and you go, oh, looks like he had a really good game. But during the game, you're like, I don't remember seeing him at all. Josh Dunkley is one of those as well for me.
Yeah.
I don't remember a single thing he'll do during the game unless he's, locking down an opposition player. Then I'll remember a couple of good things. But then at the end, I'll go, oh, he's got 30 touches and 10 tackles. How did that happen? Yeah,
the only time I really noticed Dunkley on the ground is if he's got the ball inside forward 50.
Yeah.
And look, that's not a bad thing. Like if your mids are accumulating the ball without making mistakes and without getting pinged for different things by the umpires.
Oh, no. It definitely wasn't a knock on Dunkley. It was just kind of an example of, some guys can have great games, but you don't notice it as much because maybe you just expect them to have a good game every week, or you don't notice the small things that they do, and you just, there'll be someone, by example, like Logan Morris, where he'll kick 2 or 3 goals, but he won't do much else for the rest of the game, and then you go, oh, geez, he was pretty exciting. But he didn't really do much. He just had a couple of lucky goals. You know what I mean?
So, I noticed this when I went to a VFL game earlier in the year, and I thought, oh, well, he's just up and about because he's in the VFL. He does a lot of stuff off the ball, like positional stuff. He makes leads. He creates false leads to help teammates get into the open.
This is Deb you're still talking about?
No, Logan Morris that you brought up. Like, he does these little things. Now, I was like, oh, well, he's in the AFL now. He's probably not doing that because he's on, down the pecking order a little bit. But no, on Sunday, he was still doing that. Actually, really, I know I said he wasn't ready, and I still stand by that. I'll die on that hill. Mike Whiting agrees with me, by the way.
Yeah.
But we're also realizing that he's got some really special stuff about him.
Yeah, I mean, the potential that he's showing kind of indicates that he should have gone a bit higher in the draft, and that he was a bit of a bolter and was probably overlooked by a few people.
Yeah,
I mean, he's performing like he was a end of first round, beginning of second round player, but we got him in the third or late third, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not a midfielder, so he's always going to come in that little bit later. I think he's not a midfielder or a big key position player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is they're either right at the front of the draft or right at the back of the draft.
Yeah, that's it. Look, we're good at getting the steals.
That's true. I mean, you look at the key position players that have been taken in the draft, like the national draft in the last couple of years, and there's a lot of them that have been rumored to have a lot of potential, but they haven't really kind of clicked and become stars. I mean, Hugo Hagen's one.
Yeah. As I said to you about an hour before we come on air, one of the hosts on Triple M tonight said to him and Sam Darcy are two of the greatest forwards that the Bulldogs have ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Grant was a superstar.
Yeah.
Simon Beasley kicked the most goals out of anyone in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Give it a spell.
A bit like that guy from the Giants. I can't remember his name. The number one pick from a few years ago. That they had.
Aaron Cadman.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about him since he came on.
Giants fans are always happy with what he does, though. Like, I know there's only 5 of them, but I know 3 of those 5. And
it looked like they. And you ask people on the list, like the coaches and the list managers and stuff, and they'll go, look, they're always long-term prospects. They always take about 5 or 6 years to come on, and all this sort of stuff. But to see a guy like Logan come in his first year, I know he's not super tall. Like, he's not one of those 200-centimeter giants.
No, he's like Darcy Gardner size.
Yeah, but he's tall, but he's kind of a short key forward, but he's not. He's not really a medium forward. He's kind of this weird middle ground. But
yeah,
he's shown some great talent straight away. I mean, we were blown out of our seats, pre-season games, intra clubs, early VFL games. He kind of just has been electric since the beginning.
Yeah, and he's got that sort of, I guess he's got that little bit of electricity about his personality as well. You can see it.
Oh yeah.
And some people might call it an ego. And look, to be good at anything you do, you've got to have an ego. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
Like at my job I do every day, if I've got one of the younger guys working with me who's not that confident, my chest puffs out because I know how to do every part of my job.
Yep.
I puff my chest out and my ego goes not quite out of control, but it grows because suddenly I'm the big dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And to be good at whatever your job is, you've got to have an ego and use it.
Yep.
Yeah. I did lose my train of thought then. I'm known for doing that, but
that's all good. I'm basically getting at is, I guess the long and short of what I was getting at was that there's a lot of excitement of the young guys on the list. And there's certainly a lot of potential. I mean, we're having a pretty ordinary year. Although I will come back to a Mike Whiting article that I read just before. But we are having an ordinary year. Everyone kind of agrees. Even the clubs agreeing that we're having an ordinary year. And people are going, there's a window shut. No, it's not. I mean, there's only really a couple of our elite players that are getting over that 30 mark where they're not going to be around for much longer. And Zorko, Neil, McCarthy, that's pretty much it. Everyone else that's a key essential player is still really young. Like, I'm talking like 23 to 26.
Yeah, like
bracket. And then there's like all of the unproven guys who are still super young. I mean, we got Ashcroft. We know he's going to be elite.
Yep.
Jasper Fletcher. Dusty Wilmot, Kai Lohman, Logan Morris. Keating Coleman, like they're all still super young. And then there's
Noah Answorth's still pretty young. Rayner's only 24. Maybe we won't see his best until he's 26. I mean, 26 seems to be a good age for guys to really come into it.
Yeah, and if we keep McCluggage and Berry, which I think we probably will, but if we do keep both of them, they're only a year older than Rayner.
Yeah, they're 25.
So they're 25, turning 26.
Hipwood's 26-ish. Harris Andrews, 27.
And, by all reports, we're getting another Ashcroft brother this year who's supposed to be at this stage a top 10 player in the draft.
Yeah.
Marshall, the Academy fellow, who I haven't really heard much about since the season started, but he was supposed to be around that top 10 mark as well.
Yeah, so I had a little rumour today from a pretty good source, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I heard a little rumour that the Ashcroft family are moving house to Queensland.
Oh, okay.
At the end of this year. Marcus and Mrs. Ashcroft.
Well, I mean, it would make sense if both the boys are playing up here, but I guess they're also adults at the same time, so it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, but Simon Black's parents were moved over to Brisbane back in the day as well.
Mm.
That wasn't the first or last time that's happened either.
They have a baby sister, don't they? The Ashford brothers?
Yeah, so their younger sister plays junior footy with my mate's daughter.
Right.
I'm not going to name my mate because that will give away too much.
But she's supposed to be rated for AFLW in a couple of years, isn't she?
Yeah, a few more years down the road, but
yeah, she's a bit younger, but something to look at in the future.
Yeah, correct. So just one last thing on the VFL I do want to say, and this was a bit of egg on my face, saying pre-game that the commentators, you get the hometown commentators that are one-sided. I thought they were really good. And I didn't watch the whole entire game because I had some personal stuff to take care of, but I
did. They were pretty good.
Yeah. I probably watched 2.5 quarters or say 2/3 of the game.
Yep.
And I thought they were really, really balanced, but they were on us when we were on fire as well.
Yeah, actually, they were probably my favorite VFL commentators of the year, to be honest. I'd like to have them again. Probably
my favorite VFL commentators since the Neefle days, as far as Brisbane games go.
Yes, the Neefle days.
Let me just tell you, though, the grand final that Williamstown played against Richmond a few years back on Channel 7. I can't remember who the commentators were, but I'm pretty sure there was only one team playing that day, and I'm pretty sure Marley and Pickett was the only guy on the ground.
Of course, yeah.
Make of that what you will.
The Goey, there's a few people on that list. She's definitely on that list.
Speaking of the D family, and
here we go.
Regular listeners will know where we're going when we mention the D family. Well, first things first, there was a thread somewhere on one of the socials about, as probably Reddit, a subreddit of some sort. How many guys have gone from professional or semi-professional cricket to professional football? Because Will Parker, playing for Collingwood now, has played first-class cricket for Victoria.
Yep.
And somebody mentioned old Nicky D, and didn't he get roasted for that?
Mm-hmm.
The bloke probably hasn't picked up a cricket bat in his life, but the Collingwood fans and the media down here are so obsessed with him that you can't help but drop his name when you're asked a question.
Yeah.
He's like, who was the first man to walk on the moon? Well, it was Nicky D, of course.
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm talking about his dad now. So there's the Carlton draft. They do that thing every year where they get footballers to go and they do a few cashies at footy clubs, and some of the more recently retired ones go play.
I was going to say that's like recent retirees, not usually guys that have been out since the 80s.
Yeah, the older guys generally sort of like guys that work in the media mostly. We'll go and do a few cashies here and there. They've got old mate Will Schofield, Dermot Brereton, Nathan Buckley, and a few others. And a couple of them, the more recently retired guys, will go play a game at a struggling club or whatever to help them get some money in the gate and that sort of thing. Yep. Now, in these cashies, every one of them's doing one.
Yeah. It's
like, yep, all right, you're going to Corio Footy Club, which is my local club, or you're going to what's your no, it's not the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're in the NFL.
Jindalee Jags.
The Jindalee Jags, yeah. Jacksonville Jaguars, as they call them, are in the NFL. Yeah. So you're going to the Jindalee Jags, and you're doing a cashy or whatever. Old mate Daddy D is doing 3 cashies.
Of course he is.
Oh yeah, of course he is. Come on, mate, give it a spell.
Isn't he also on Survivor or some other Celebrity Get Me Out of Here or something like that as well?
Yeah, is that the one where they go to the jungle? You've got to remember, I don't watch TV.
Oh, neither do I, but I just heard that he was on one of those celebrity survival shows, and it's just really squeezed in that last few out.
Yeah, it's probably the one where they had Barry Hall one year and Fev and Dane Swan, some real upstanding citizens. I think they had Warney on there one year, so that was all right.
Yeah, did you hear that the Dacos?
I
was trying so hard.
That's your first fine for the year, mate. That's a $5.
The brothers, the D brothers.
Yeah.
They they do a lot of events and they charge people a lot of money to just rock up and be at events.
I have heard that.
I'm talking like 5 figures
Yeah.
for like rocking up to a party to say hello.
Yeah, I have heard that. And
Yeah.
and Daddy comes along as well.
Yep.
And he gets a little, a few more sheets of paper in his hand as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's a racket, I reckon.
Yeah, imagine if we go cashless.
Carlton will be in shambles.
Oh, wouldn't that open a can of worms? It's funny, like you can buy these Cash is King stickers, right?
Yeah.
But you got to buy them online and pay electronically.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, that's just every time I see that,
ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Alanis Morissette couldn't even write a song about that if she tried. So speaking of like players getting around on the socials a bit, so this was brought to my attention yesterday. Getting back to Luke Beacon, about 8 or 9 hours before the draft, apparently he was starting to follow everyone from Brisbane and the club itself. And went on a bit of a rampage of love-hearting everybody's posts on Instagram.
He was excited, wasn't he?
He obviously knew he was going there.
Oh yeah, they don't find out when their name gets called. I think that's just a bit dramatic for TV. I think they get told in advance most of the time. Yeah,
but I reckon like you hear stories about guys will go, Collingwood said they were going to pick me up with pick 31, but then I went to Adelaide at pick 30, or Brisbane were going to pick me up at pick 32, and I ended up at pick 29 at the Gold Coast or something like that, and
yeah, but I mean, like as much as like the recruiters, and I mean David Noble was always famous for saying this, if you don't have it planned out 2 years in advance, then you're already behind and you've already failed and all this sort of stuff. And he kind of alluded to the fact that there's no last minute surprises, everything's planned out. But I think that's not that's probably 80% true. But there's always stuff that sneaks through at the last minute, and there's always last-minute changes.
Well, if David Noble said it's true, then it's true because he is one of the smartest operators in the game.
That's true, but I mean, like if there's a last-minute change at another club, and you go, there's a chance here for something better than what we'd had planned, then of course you're going to jump on that and you're going to shift the magnets a little bit.
Yeah, so like when Devon Robertson wasn't picked up early on that first night in his draft year.
Yeah.
So we traded up to get into the draft earlier.
That's exactly right.
Because he was touted to be a top, 10 to 15 pick.
Well, he won the Lark Medal in his under-18 year, which for those who are not listening, it's the best under-18s player in the NAB Cup across the whole competition. It's basically the Brownlow for the NAB Cup. Yeah,
so that's a Commonwealth Bank Championship. So the old Teal Cup, as it used to be back in my day. Yeah. So that's he went to that first night and sat there the whole night. Was the only guy that didn't get picked up, which is pretty devastating for him, as you would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just embarrassing for unnecessarily embarrassing, but plans change, things like that. So
yeah, all right. Well, I guess we're probably done with the footy stuff.
Well, in a way.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we'll touch on before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get into? You just want to get into your mailbag?
Yeah, sure.
All right, away you go.
Sure, just pulling it up now.
Yep.
So we had a few people reach out this time. Some repeat people as well. So, just as always, if you have any feedback for us, leave a comment, on YouTube or any of the socials. Whenever Ash shares that we've uploaded an episode on Reddit or Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anything like that, make sure you give us a like and comment if you can. Even if you just, don't even have a question, maybe you just want to say something. We appreciate all of that. Plus, we have a new service set up for voicemails. Is that right, Ash?
Yeah, so that's on speakpipe.com. So if you just go to speakpipe.com, search up We Are the Pride, all one word, you'll find us. Or if you go on our Facebook page, there is a link you can click as well.
Yeah, and we also have an email address if you want to plug that one as well.
Yeah, so that's brisbanelionspodcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. So this week on Facebook, we had Christian Guelmo reach out.
Yeah.
And he said, what position should Rayner play? So I've got some initial thoughts, but I want you to tell me yours if you disagree or if you've got a different idea.
Yeah, you go.
So I think it's pretty clear at this stage that he should be playing predominantly forward, but I think the structure of the team should be changed. And we had some of our best performances from Rayner when the structure was a little different. So the team seems to be obsessed with trying to squeeze 3 tall players into the lineup when that hasn't necessarily worked. And it hasn't worked for a long time, but they really want it to be that's the method that works, but it doesn't necessarily work. I think the best method would be 2 talls, so your Hipwood and your Danaher, and then Rayner playing as your pseudo third tall forward.
Yeah.
I think that's where he plays his best footy. I think that's where you're going to get the best output from him. And I think that's what they should do. What do you think?
Yeah, look, he plays above his actual height. I feel like he plays
He's
bigger.
got a great leap on him for a solid guy.
But even just overhead marking on the run as well on the lead, he's good. He's strong. He's he's physically as strong as anyone in the comp, in my opinion. But at ground level, when he's on at ground level, he's as quick and dynamic as any small forward as well.
That's true.
Look, I had high hopes for him getting into centre bounces, and I still think that could be on the cards at some point on a more regular basis. But our coaching panel just don't seem to believe in him enough. But it's not just with the centre bounces; it's any position. And he
floats too much.
Yeah, we've said this so many times that there's weeks when he's been given a specific role because he just goes out and dominates. And then there's like 4 or 5 weeks after that where he stargazes because he doesn't know what he's meant to be doing.
Yeah.
Because they haven't given him a clear message or a clear role. Like, I think that high half forward pushing up to pinch hit in the midfield is probably where he's at now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hipwood's weapon is to push up the ground, use his speed to double back, and obviously, getting the ball down to the smaller guys. His field kicking's elite. So if he's pushing up, Rayner can then hang back and provide that extra bigger sized body. As you said, as like that pseudo third tall.
Yeah, and I mean, like obviously that's assuming that Danaher is also going to be hitting in the ruck sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Like the 3 of them together, especially if you're throwing in not Rayner and you're throwing in another third tall like Fort or someone like that. I think they all just get in each other's way. So Hipwood's got to go up the field and back. Danaher's got to do some ruck, and I think get Rayner out of the midfield and get him up the forward line to take those massive speckies that he's really been really good at the last couple of years.
I can't remember if it was Dom or Fish on the Raw Deal. One of them said that they want him to go down back again.
It was Dom.
Yeah, when he went down back last year at the start of the season, if you recall, they just totally were against it.
But also Zorko's kind of like found a new home down there.
Yeah.
And he's probably playing some of his better footage he's played in a couple of years down there, so I probably wouldn't be changing that.
Yeah, so I don't think Rayner is the actual problem with his lack of output on a consistent basis. Again, I'm putting it down to the coaches. Pick one of your coaches to deal with him, tell the others to butt out and give him one message, one role.
Yeah.
Clearly too many Chiefs and only one not a Chief.
That was close.
One Washington commander. It's not working. Like, too many messages is too much.
Yeah. It's KISS, isn't it? Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, you cannot stress that enough, can you? Like, really?
Yeah.
And so I got one in from a workmate who's not a Lions supporter, but he's a pretty diehard footy fan.
Yep.
And look, I didn't really want to sort of bring this up, but I'm not going to be that sort of guy that cherry picks the content.
All right. Yep.
And he said, "What's Rayner worth at the trade table?"
Ooh. Yeah, look, that's an interesting prospect. I mean, I don't want him to go,
Yeah,
and I'm not looking to trade him out. But in a
no,
hypothetical sense, if he goes, I want to go back to Victoria, what is his worth? I think, is he valued on his potential, like we all,
I think at
think he's capable of, or
think
is
at
it direct output?
24 you can still bank on that a little bit.
Mm,
If he's 26, you got to bank on the body of work.
that's true. He's cutting it really fine with the patience on the the development and things like that. Like he's entering his prime if not already there.
But then you've got like a Craig McRae or a Sam Mitchell or a well, maybe not a Ross Lyon, but like a Brad Scott, one of those guys that's pretty good at giving guys jobs and saying that's your job all the time.
Yeah,
they could potentially be looking and go, well, he's a Victorian, he's all over the place, and it's not his fault. I could make him into something.
mm.
And I think to get him out of Brisbane, they've got to pay overs to Brisbane and financially.
So he's 24 and he's played 124 games. He's never played a single VFL game. From the first available game he's been able to play since he was drafted, he has jumped straight into the senior team. He's been injured a couple of times, obviously did an ACL. But apart from that, he's never really missed much footy.
No.
I think he's worth a first-round pick and probably some
supplementary picks,
some change chucked around and back and forth.
I think like probably a late first-round pick, and you've got to take into consideration that he was number one draft pick in his year.
And I think he'd be worth a pick in the teens. Yeah,
that's turned out to be an okay draft. I mean, even just some of his teammates said he was drafted in front of Zach Bailey, Brendan Starcevich, Jack Payne.
Geez, that was a good draft, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we only have one miss with Connor Ballenden, but that's life. You're never going to be perfect 100% of the time, are you?
No, that's right.
But yeah, look, I think rather than to have a trade discussion, just get the messaging right from the coaches and release the hounds a bit, let him go, give him a job, and rest of the year, this is your job. Then we'll assess it at the end of the year. They do that with everybody else in the team, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I've got one last one here from Rusty Gore.
Yep.
Who left us a really big comment. But I'm gonna read it all anyway. It's not too much here.
Yeah, it's all right.
Because he's proven he's a loyal listener. So we'll show some love with Rusty. So we love you too, buddy.
Yep.
So this was on Facebook. He said, "Thanks, guys. Love listening to your podcast, by the way. I was completely both shocked and humbled when Ash read out my entire post after the Giants game." So that was a good one. And then he followed that up with, "Honestly, the goalposts for the season shifted when we picked up a few injuries." I completely agree with that one.
Correct, yeah.
It could be well argued that even if we just make finals, this could be considered a pass mark. If you put our best 22 we have up against the best 22 of Sydney, Port, Geelong, or even the Bombers right now, we would just be making up the numbers. Yeah, hard to argue with that, to be honest.
Yep.
He says, traditionally, we have never really played that well coming out of the bye, so I don't expect us to win against the Dogs next weekend. Also my birthday weekend, and they usually lose on that weekend too, strangely enough.
Thank God my birthday is in pre-season.
Mine's usually in the bye just before finals,
Oh.
Which will probably mean we won't make the 8. But as I have said before, it's not the worst thing in the world. Have a full preseason, a reset, go hard again next year with a refreshed squad and mentality. I shared my thoughts about the Hawks game in another post, so not much to add. Whilst we had 6 players with under 20 games of experience, we also had 15 players who were part of the grand final team too. So you could think that part of the team cohesion problems. You would think that part of the team cohesion problems we have had wouldn't be too compromised. There does appear to be something not quite right, and I hope that they address that the mentality of the squad during the bye. Silver lining of this season is We've had our depth tested. Lohman, Morris, Sharp, Revel, and Brain all look good. I agree with that.
Yes.
And getting games into them is awesome. Also very excited about the additions of our new mid-season draftees. Lachlan looks a find. I agree again.
Yep.
Even if we miss out on finals, I can see us improving in the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season and will become a real headache for anyone who plays us. A big goal for us for the season would be to beat the Pies at the MCG. Geez, that'd be good.
Oh, yeah.
Win that game, and it would be the first time I can remember where we have won both of our home and away games at the MCG in over 20 years.
Yes.
I think, and then he puts in brackets, I think the stretch from 2001 to 2002 was the last time. And that would be a big positive for the team in this 24 season. And I agree. I mean, the goalposts have shifted for me personally, and I think for a lot of people. I'm not even really thinking about finals now. I'm just thinking, let's hopefully not get any more injuries. Let's see what the young kids have got. Let's try and get the spirits back up a little bit. And, you know, we've got some good guys that we just picked up in the mid-season draft. We're expected to pick up some really elite young kids in the national draft at the end. We don't know what's going on with trades. There might be some big, you know, big people coming in. Maybe we'll lose a few players. Who knows? It's all up in the air, but everything's primed to have a pretty good start to the next season. And if you look in the last couple of years, there's a lot of teams that have lost the grand final and they've kind of gone down and had a pretty ordinary year, but then they usually bounce back up.
Yeah, they've all
the following year.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty optimistic, not about where we're going to end up this year in terms of, you know, finals or whatever, but I'm optimistic for the future.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things he said about the final, so I'm going to ask you the question here. Would you rather we win every or most of our games for the rest of the home and away season, we scrape into 7th or 8th, and then we go out first week? Or would you rather miss the 8 completely, get into the draft a bit, and build for a better, stronger next year?
So I would rather have an ordinary year this year and then prep for the future, get some good kids in, and then, you know, push again next year. Because I don't think it's a, you know, fall off and then your window's done and then, you know, you can't get back up again. We've got so much, we said at the beginning of the episode, we got so many elite guys in good age brackets that it's just not a concern for me.
Yeah.
But saying that, I mean, I did mention to you before the podcast that, you know, if we finish quite low, you know, in the bottom, let's say bottom 8, and we have a top 8 pick in the draft, we would have to trade that out so that we didn't lose the draft compensation for getting guys like Marshall and Ashcroft in. So that could tie into what we were saying about Oscar Allen before, or at least getting another, you know, we could trade that pick forward maybe to next year when we don't have as many guys coming through Father-Son Academy that we have to use points for with the picks.
Yeah.
Or we could get another big fish in. It's exciting, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a bit that can be done there, and like, you know, some of the older guys are going to be, you know, would have had front-ended contracts, and now they're going to be on less money. Apparently, we've got plenty of room in our cap coming up in the next 2 years. So,
well, that's interesting because I mean, we're talking about giving big contracts to like McCluggage and guys like that. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but like we're, you know, obviously, you know, McCluggage, what is reportedly 7 years and $1 million a season. That's reportedly, and no one in the media really knows. It could be more, could be less.
That's true, but the CBA is also supposed to expand. The salary cap is supposed to get bigger.
That's it. Hipwood got 7 years, and Danaher extended his to make it 5 years early on, and whatever. But
and I'm sure they would have structured both of those to have the most benefit for the club in the long term, in terms of like, you know, balancing the books kind of thing.
And like, Hipwood at the time and McCluggage upcoming would be getting more at another club, like, say a Victorian club, for example, because you do always pay overs to get a bloke out of a club. So they're probably getting less than their market value per se, and market value is only what someone else is willing to pay.
That's true.
Yeah. So look, I wouldn't be at all devastated if we finished 9th, 10th, 11th, something like that.
I've made my peace with the fact that we're not going to be challenging again for last year's, falling short.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I was pretty rocked a couple of weeks ago when I realized that, or it looked like, it was going to be a really ordinary season. But then I've kind of done the thinking, and basically everything I just said about the trade period, and getting some elite kids in and getting some games into those guys like Morris and Lohman and whatnot, and then just ready to shoot back up the ladder next year and multiple years into the future.
Yeah. And like, it's there's no shame in having an off year. But when you have the thing of having an off year is you can look at us and say, well, like you've said, these guys are coming back. We're getting games into these guys. We've got these guys coming that aren't here yet that are going to be pretty special.
Yep.
We're probably going to have a new coach within the next year or two, I would say, because, look, Fagan's not a young man. I would like to see some moving around in the assistant coaching department as well. And I really feel that we're probably not even ready for a premiership yet. We probably weren't ready last year, and our time hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, I think I'd be disappointed if, there's the romance of Zorko winning a flag. And if we didn't win it while he was on the list, I'd probably be a little disappointed. But I guess you could say the same for Daniel Rich. When he left.
But do you reckon Zorko is going to be any less happy about if the club wins one a year after he retires, or 2 years down the road or whatever? Do you think he's going to be sad? He is such a club man. He's going to be all over it.
Oh yeah, he loves the club. I think he would be disappointed, but I think it would not outweigh his happiness for the club as a whole.
I don't reckon Zorko would be disappointed. I just reckon he's such a passionate guy that he's all in. Like when we had that was our slogan for a couple of years in the membership, all in.
All in, yeah.
Zorko is the all-in guy. He gives it every single thing he's got.
Yep.
And, and obviously sometimes he makes mistakes because of it, but
yeah, he gets a bit heated.
I am not going to be going out and publicly calling him obscenities, because that's just disgusting and gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'll be doing that.
I respect the hell out of him and love the way he goes about it. And whether you agree with me or not, that's a matter of opinion. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess we've just got a couple of quick little non-footy segments to get through.
Yep. Should we get into it?
Yeah, I think it's my turn to go first on the top 5 this week.
All right. Yep. Let's go.
Look, it probably isn't, but mine are going to be pretty easy, I think. I think you'll get most of them, if not all of them.
Okay. What's your top 5?
My top 5 is current AFL listed footballers who grew up as Lions supporters.
Oh, across all clubs?
Yeah. So I've got 7 guys. 2 of them are honourable mentions.
I was going to say, mate, we're doing top 5s, not top 7s.
Yeah. One of them, obviously, is Ben Keys. I'm not including him because he played for the club.
Yeah.
Jaden Stevenson, I'm not including him because he got suspended for being naughty. So it's no deal.
He's in a timeout, is he?
Yeah, he's in the naughty corner. So number 5.
All right.
This guy's dad played for Collingwood and invented the bladed football boot. Right. And this guy, I can't give away where he lives or plays football because there's only one team in the town. That probably gives it away a bit too much.
Ooh, okay.
Jared Waitley has a bit of an affection for him.
Okay, I know the team. I'm just trying to think of...
Well, it's obviously the Cats.
Oh, Brian Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny. His dad played for Collingwood and he was a Lions supporter.
I was raking through my head. I was like, oh, man. Because I was thinking like, ex-Lions. And I was like, no. Because the only reason I remembered it is because of his name. And I remember the story about why his name is Brian.
Yeah. That's a story for the Cats podcasters to go into, or roaming Brian. Yeah, and I always used to say when he had the dreadies that he looks like every apprentice chippy down the Torquay and Janjuk.
True.
He just needed to have the egg and bacon roll and the iced coffee. But geez, he's a good footballer, I know. Like,
oh, for sure.
Wish we had got him now. So this next guy, I don't reckon you'll get him, but I'll try and make it easy because we want to get through this.
Of course.
Kicked a pretty a goal from a pretty debatable free kick against us earlier this year.
Ooh.
Turned to the crowd, grabbed his jumper, which was hilarious, because he was the one who wanted to come to us a couple of years ago and changed his mind. And obviously, it's not Mitch Wallace because he's not in the system anymore.
No. It's not Wilmot. It's the other academy fella
No,
from Richmond. No?
no.
Oh.
I think he's a Victorian, and he's very, very popular with the female supporters of his football club. He may win a award at the end of this football season too, and it won't be the.
I'll go past just because I didn't get it on the first time.
Jamie Elliott.
Oh, is he a Lions fan growing up?
Yeah. And I've got this from numerous sources of Collingwood supporters.
Yeah, he was very close to coming to us as well.
Toured the facilities, as they say.
As they say, yeah.
All right, next one, number 3. I know he said the guy's name without even realising, but I stopped myself.
I stop myself when I do that as well.
Played under 18s footy for the Geelong Falcons. Used to be a member of the Facebook group that I'm an admin of, the Lions group. On the day he got drafted, he actually left the group, which I thought was a bit of a tick.
That's pretty funny.
It's like, he's like, I'm at the draft. I've just been taken as a very early pick. I'm going to go into Facebook and leave a group. Played for the Geelong Falcons, I think I said, from country Victoria, west of Geelong, not actually in Geelong.
I'm going to take a punt already.
Yeah.
Sam Walsh?
Yes, correct. Now, this next one might be a toughie, but I'm going to make it really, really easy.
Okay.
Recruited from South Barwon Football Club in Geelong.
Okay.
As a mature age recruit, overlooked in a couple of drafts.
Yeah.
He's now captain of his current football club. Got injured against us earlier this year.
Whose captain's got injured against us?
There was a facial injury that had him sort of get concussed.
Gorn?
No, I think Gorm was a Hawthorn supporter.
Oh, okay. Because I remember captain facial injury. Injury against us.
That was last year. That was last year. He did his knee.
Yeah, bugger. Yeah. All right. I pass.
Tom Stewart.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't have guessed that because I thought he was the captain.
Yeah, I didn't know he was captain until yesterday.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that on that clue because there's some I think it's just because I'm getting older. I get amazed with the captain picks from other clubs now, and I'm like, no, he's a baby. And I'm like, oh, he's 25. I guess that makes sense.
Hey, Jaron Geary at St Kilda was the best Jaron to ever play in the AFL.
That's true. But that's true.
Yeah, nobody can dispute that fact.
That's true. We've had some giggles about Jaron over the years.
So the number one player, and I've ranked them on what I think is their footballing ability. So Myers and Elliott could have gone either way. I think another year or so, Myers probably goes ahead of Elliott. If he gets more midfield time, he's probably up there with Walsh. But number one, this guy was he went to school around the Shepparton area. I think he's from Echuca. Being a red-haired Lions supporter, his favourite player was Michael Voss. Although that could also have been pretty much 90% of our playing list during his childhood. He plays for a Victorian club. He's been in the media a fair bit during pre-season for probably not the good reasons. But when he's on, he's an amazing footballer. Dane Swan wrote some pretty gross tweets about him one year during Brownlow night, saying that he probably paid for his date because he's ugly. Which Dane Swan, mate, you are a dickhead.
Jesus Christ.
Like, you are an absolute dickhead, mate.
Yeah, not a big Swan fan myself.
No.
That's so brutal. Redhead. Oh, I'm trying to think of the redhead Victorian players.
Yeah, there's probably not as many. This guy stands out. Bit of a strawberry blonde, if anything.
Yeah.
Has a connection to Max Gawn.
Clayton Oliver.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. Clayton Oliver, big Michael Voss fan growing up.
Yeah, didn't know that, hey?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a Lions fan specifically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really well publicised when he was drafted.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good top five, mate. Good top five.
Yeah, good. So good players in there, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure, definitely. I thought you were going to go with Walsh for number one because he was the one off the top of my head before we started that I remembered as being a Lions fan because there was that whole big, now he's playing with Boss and it was big talked up a lot.
Look, I'm a bit hard on the midfielders sometimes. I mean, Clayton Oliver, you can't deny he has the body of work. Walsh, whilst he's an amazing footballer, does some great things. He has had a bit of time off with injury, and he's still pretty young. So
that's true, and it's your top five, so it's subjective, not objective.
Yeah, with time, he could become the best of those guys.
That's true. Okay, my top five is, and this is, you got to remember, across all, so Fitzroy, Bears, and Merge Club.
Yep.
This is top five trade-ins and how much, and it's ranked on how much impact they had at the time when they were traded in.
Yep. So Tom Bell's your number one.
Definitely. He's actually all five.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
He was at the past players thing on Sunday, actually.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So no, he's not in my top five. So I've got top five, and then I got a little bonus player for you, like I like to throw in there.
Yeah.
So just reminding you, so this is players who didn't start their career at one of the three of our clubs.
Yep.
But came into one of the three of our clubs, and it's ranked on the impact that they had and how important of a trade they were when they happened.
And you could pick pretty much the whole entire Bears first year playing list.
Stay tuned. So
I knew it.
Number five, born in 1994, good year.
Yeah.
Played for Swan Districts.
Yeah.
Drafted in 2013.
Yeah.
Kicked 368 career goals.
Yeah.
Who am I?
And he's a Queenslander who grew up in WA.
Potentially.
Charlie Cameron.
That's correct.
Yep.
Now, number four, born in 1993. Played for Glenelg.
Mm-hmm.
Drafted in 2011. Kicked 116 goals. Who am I?
Well, that narrows it down to three possible guys that are all really good mates. But because he's back at number four, I don't think it's the obvious one. Or is it the obvious one?
You just have to make a guess, mate.
All right. So I buggered this up last week or the week before with these three guys. I mentioned one of them and said it wasn't him when it clearly was.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's not Lincoln McCarthy this time because you've already had him. But it could be.
Guess?
Lockie Neal.
Correct.
Yep.
Interesting, though, because he's only four. So, I thought I was going to throw you out there a little bit and that he was going to be higher. But
that was what confused me a bit. I was like, oh, is it Jared Lyons?
Well, we're talking a lot of history here.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that the three guys ahead of him had more impact. Not necessarily like in terms of their careers, but how much impact they had when they came in to the side that they came into at that time. So, they're all great career players for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's more about how much impact they had when they were brought in to
Yeah.
that specific team at that time.
gotcha.
So, number 3, born in 1968. This is where it's going to get a bit trickier.
So that makes him mid-50s, yeah?
Played for Hobart,
Yeah.
drafted in 1986, and kicked
Yeah.
633 career goals.
And you might have been named after him.
Maybe.
Oh, we. That's a very good question. Well, I'm going to go with Lynchy.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Alistair Lynch.
I think he made his debut in 88, though, so...
Yeah, he didn't come straight in. That was the year that he was put on the list.
Yes. 86,
Yes.
we had a bloody good team, though.
Yeah, for sure. And number 2, almost said the name of this person again. Born in 1951.
Ooh. That
Yeah,
makes
going
him
back.
73 this year.
Yep, going back.
Yep.
I'm trying to butcher the pronunciation of this. Played for Traralgon FC.
Yeah.
Drafted in 1969 and kicked 817 career goals.
Bernard Quinlan.
That's correct.
Yep. As soon as you said Traralgon, I was like, I can only think of 2 good footballers that have come from Traralgon, and it's not Bob Murphy. So,
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Bob Murphy. But pretty important player when he came in, right?
oh,
From Footscray.
yeah, 2 Colemans and a Brownlow, and
Yeah,
multiple
no big
All
deal.
Australians, and
No
100,
big deal.
100 goals on 2 occasions.
And then we get to number 1. Born in 1960, played for Kaniva FC.
Conniver, yeah.
Kaniva. Drafted
Nice.
in 1978 and kicked 433 goals.
It's definitely Conniver, by the way, because I reckon this is a bloke that I'm related to because that's where my dad's family are all from out that way. Roger Merritt.
That's correct.
Yeah, Roger, the man with the pointy elbows.
Yep. So important to the club is he that Best and Fairest is half named after him.
Correct. And Roger is a more closely related cousin to my more distant cousin that plays for the Western Bulldogs.
True.
So maybe that guy's coming to us next year.
Oh, geez, wouldn't that be a scoop?
Oh, yeah. Especially with us 2 knowing who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Well, and Neil.
So you're 5 for 5, but I've got the bonus player.
Yeah.
We'll see how you go with this. I'm going to say that if you don't get this, you lose because
All right.
because I want to win.
It's you competitive bastard.
Yeah. So, born in 1990, played for Southport, was drafted in 2008 and kicked 172 career goals.
2008. Ooh, that is a very interesting question. How long do I get to answer?
I'll give you another 10 seconds. Otherwise, it'll just be dead air.
Oh, yeah. Need like that bloody Sail of the Century music, don't we?
Yep.
As soon as you say the guy's name, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you will. You'll be kicking yourself if you don't get it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Who did we get in 2008? We got Daniel Rich, obviously. Jack Redden.
So he was
Todd Banfield was around about that
he
time.
was drafted 2008. He didn't come to us in
didn't
2008.
come to us. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm hearing you.
Because remember, they all started somewhere else.
Yeah, you're right. It's not Ty Vickery.
Is that your guess?
No, clearly not. Nah, hit me.
Dane Beams.
Dane Beams. There you go.
He was. You got to admit, he was very important when he came to us.
Oh, he was massive.
Game changing.
Yeah, he was. You cannot fault anything he did on the football field for our football club.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I got you there at the end. A little
Yeah,
tricky one.
Premiership player 2010.
Yep.
Collingwood Best and Fairest 2011 in a year they made a grand final.
Yep. He had
And
a couple of BNFs under us, one or two.
yeah, and top 5 in a Brownlow one year for us as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, when it was, I got the little scoop that we had had an interest in getting him.
Mhm.
I was like, well, he's achieved all this and he's still only 24. Let's get him.
Oh yeah, and he was a natural born Queenslander as well.
And a bit of numerology for you. We all know
Mm,
how much the number 29 means to me.
true.
I'm pretty sure he was picked 29 in his draft.
Oh, I actually did. I have that? Oh, oh. Give me a sec,
Yeah.
because I did have this. You are exactly right. Number 29, 2008. Good call.
Yeah. And my two favourite players at the Lions currently
Mm,
have their badges on my scarf. Number 26 and number 3 adds up to 29.
true.
Yeah.
What? No Tunstall badge?
Well, obviously Jimmy being an East Perth boy, I have an affection for him.
True.
He's not one of my two favourite players, no. Give him more senior footy. Why do you think I'm always pushing for him to get in the team, mate?
That's true. That's true.
I mean, it's form based as well, but yeah, come on, East Perth boy, number 29. He's my boy.
Yep. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, have you got a pod this week that you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I got a plot in a movie.
Yeah, we'll go with
Maybe-
the pod first.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm running out of podcasts to recommend, actually, but I've got a good one for you this week. So this one's called The Y Files. Not sure if you've heard of that one or not.
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I've listened to it.
It started a couple of years ago and it boomed in popularity, probably because of its subject matter. It's quite an interesting podcast. So each episode is based on a different topic, and the podcast basically it's the host will go on and talk about a specific situation of something that may or may not have happened, or something that happened, but they may not understand why it happened, or there's something mysterious about the circumstances. So sometimes it's, alternate history. Sometimes it's, they'll talk about like cryptids and things like that, like, sightings of a creature that may or may not exist and things like that.
Yep.
Sometimes, these exorbitant stories of UFOs or whatever, just all kinds of stuff, all just kind of sci-fi mystery, but a lot of it's based in truth and someone saying that this was a true story. So the way that he goes about it is a way that I really like it. So I don't necessarily believe everything that's discussed, and neither does the host. So the host will reveal the whole story and reveal all the information that they have about it, and then he'll give his opinion on whether he thinks there's any truth into it or whether he thinks it's BS.
Yep.
And he's always very honest at the end, and he'll go, well, they said this, this, and this, but I actually found facts that, they contradict that, or, they actually proved this thing right, or there's no information about whether this is right or not. So he gives an objective opinion at the end. Well, sorry, no, not even an opinion. He'll debunk it if there's facts out there saying that it's debunked. But sometimes he goes, look, I can't find anything that says that this isn't true. So it's a mixed bag on the result at the end, but he always gives his like objective, thoughts on it and the truth and all that sort of stuff. So it's really good. It's called The Y Files.
No worries. So I will have a look at that and
Yeah, a
check it
couple
out.
of years backlog there for you to once a week episodes as well.
Yep. I don't think I'll be checking out the backlog of Hamish and Andy's podcasts as much as
I got over them quite a few years ago.
as much as Harris Andrews highly recommends them.
Mm.
So I haven't run out of pods, but this week I'm going in another direction. I'm going to do a band.
Okay, yeah, go on.
So there's something for you in future weeks if you do run out of pods.
Yep.
So this band, they've been around since the 80s. I think they're from Queensland originally.
Mm-hmm.
It's a band called the Beast of Bourbon.
Okay.
A lot of people would have heard of him. Tex Perkins, the singer, he was also in The Cruel Sea. And in the early 2000s, he did some solo work, which you don't want to listen to. It was terrible. Cruel Sea is a pretty good band, a bit more commercial than the Beast Suburban.
Yep.
Beast Suburban, they're like one of those good old Aussie pub rock sort of bands. Couple of songs from back in the day that I really enjoy listening to. Hard for You, Chase the Dragon, and Psycho.
Yep.
Psycho is a bit of a little grungy little ballad. Pretty. I'd just say it comes with a bit of a G-rated warning on most of their songs.
Sure.
Yeah, but Tex Perkins, so good friend of the show and good friend of ours, Jules Schulte. I believe she finds Tex Perkins to be a pretty sexy man.
Yep.
She's probably going to punch me in the head when I go up to Queensland in a couple of weeks.
Yes,
for saying that. But yeah, Beasts of Bourbon, good band, good Aussie band. And yeah, couldn't tell you anything more really that you won't find out if you go and Spotify or whatever and have a listen for yourself. If you like Aussie pub rock, they're one of the OG bands of the 80s sort of period.
Beauty. Do you want to say your movie and then I'll say my movie?
Yeah. So I finally got to watch Civil War, which is a current movie on at the cinemas.
Oh, yep. That's on my watch list at the moment. Yep.
Yeah, highly recommend it. So it's based around a civil war in America, but the war is not the central part of the plot. The plot's actually based around some journalists who are traveling from New York to DC to try and get that final interview with the president of the USA before it all hits the fan.
Yep.
And it shows their journey, and it's some pretty harrowing stuff. It's really well made. It has, I don't know, is it Kirsten or Kirsten Dunst? How do you say that?
I think it's, well, I would say Kirsten, but I think they say Kirsten.
Yeah, so she's in it. She plays the older female journalist who picks up a little protege along the way. And the young lady who plays that role of the young protege, she acts her pants off in this movie. She's like the unheralded star of the movie, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, like there's some pretty brutal stuff in there, as you'd imagine, from the topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
It also has old mate. He played Todd in Breaking Bad.
Jesse Plemons,
who's Kirsten Dunst's partner.
Mm.
And he's not in it for very long, but my God, like he was in Breaking Bad, just steals the show.
Oh, yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, he is such a good character actor, and he plays that little left of center sort of character that really, really well.
He's in a really good episode of Black Mirror as well.
Okay.
Not sure if you ever watched the show Black Mirror.
No, I haven't.
So that's every episode's like different stories with different characters. He has one where he's the main character of. It's like technology horror, like technology goes too far kind of thing. Yeah. That's the theme of the show. Sorry to derail, but he's also really good in that. That's
good because I obviously Breaking Bad fans would have watched El Camino, which is the spin-off movie that he was in.
Yeah,
probably not as good in that one.
No, look, I loved Breaking Bad. I was disappointed when I heard El Camino was coming out because I was just like, leave it alone. It's done. Like, don't mess with it. But then I watched El Camino and I actually thought it was really good, like a little bit of a cherry on top just to kind of tie up a couple of loose ends. I actually thought it was pretty good. The
ending of Breaking Bad was a bit ridiculous, but that often happens after a lot of seasons. But look, I thought El Camino was well made or whatever, but it was... I found it a bit of a letdown at the same time because I was expecting it to be more action-packed.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because I didn't really see any promos or trailers. I just saw that it came up on Netflix or whatever one day, and I was like, I've got to watch this.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that one. Then to wrap up the episode, my movie is 2006, a movie called Children of Men.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, really good movie. It got Clive Owen as the main character, but it's got Michael Caine and what's her name? Julianne Moore.
Yes, Julianne Moore.
Yeah, so there's a few big names in it. But the plot of it's really good.
Yeah,
So
the subject matter, they tackle something that's a bit different, don't
I think it's something like I'll say what it is because it's not a huge
they?
spoiler.
It's been around long enough that you can say
and it gets revealed pretty early on, and it's the main point of the entire movie.
Yeah.
So it's set it's set. I think it's like around now, but it was made in 2006, and it's a very unique kind of apocalypse. So the world's basically become infertile, and babies can't get made anymore. So there's society's kind of just ticking down, until they die because new people can't get made. So it starts off with like the youngest person in the world gets killed. So then and that's a famous celebrity because you're the youngest person that's left alive.
Yeah.
And then they come across Clive Owen gets put in a position where he has to escort a woman who is pregnant to somewhere, which I won't reveal where. And he basically has to take her from one place to another and keep her safe. And it's a big deal because she's the first pregnant woman in about 20 years.
Yeah, and that scene when they discover her, like when the military discover her, that's really well done.
Oh, excellent movie. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Very brutal. Like it's going to be way more intense and gory than you think it might be.
Yeah.
So just a little warning ahead of time if anyone's planning on checking it out and they're not thinking that. But it's a great movie, like story, camera work, just the acting. Michael Caine's in it. How can you not like Michael Caine?
Yeah, I mean, like being a war movie guy, like Michael Caine, I mean, Battle of Britain.
And he's such a different character in Children of Men than he's normally would play. Like he plays like a hippie, like an old man hippie kind of character.
Yeah, but he can play any role. He's that good.
Oh, for sure. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's that good that even David King has nothing negative to say about him.
At the moment. Give him time.
See, I slipped in a Kingy reference.
He's becoming the new patron saint after Marky Mark.
Oh, I don't know. He's not at that level.
It's tight.
Because we like Marky Mark. That's the difference.
That's true.
That's a man who atoned for his sins that he committed as a youngster as well.
That's true.
Children of Men, really good movie. I'm going to rewatch it in the next week or so as well.
Yep, I watched it a week ago because I was thinking about it and wanted to recommend it, and I rewatched it and did not regret rewatching it. It was fantastic again.
Yeah, and as someone with a bit of family military background that both of us are, I don't know how much you picked up on, but for me, the military, the way they were portrayed, the kit, the weaponry, I guess the dialogue for the military people as well was one of the most accurate of any movie, like recent sort of military movie I've watched as well.
Oh yeah, and I loved all of that, but I also loved the fact that it's a pretty realistic scenario for the world ending. I think. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be zombies or asteroids or anything like that. I think infertility, which is something that is becoming a concern in real life at the moment.
Yes.
There's a lot of studies saying that men are becoming infertile as time goes on. I think that's something that is a very realistic possibility in the future. So
it does.
It's kind of scary. When it first came out, it was like, this is a cool idea, and then you watch it 20 years later, and you're like, this is actually terrifying.
Yeah, it's actually
realistic.
like you just said, a potentially realistic subject where, the zombie apocalypse, or for supernatural fans, like the all the angels and devils coming from heaven and hell to earth because they got kicked out.
Yeah.
And, that's not going to happen. And like
infertility, you can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. It's just, that's scary, scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you got any last final thoughts to do with anything football related or anything like that?
No, I think I'm going to enjoy the bye this weekend. And then we'll be back next week to preview the Bulldogs game. Yeah.
I watched about 40 seconds of last night's game.
Oh, yeah?
I was listening to Triple M on the way to pick up my son from work tonight. And while I was waiting for him to come out, and heard some ridiculous statements from one of their presenters. But other than that, I think that's the only footy interest I'm having this weekend. My fantasy team has 12 guys unavailable because of the bye.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I put all my eggs in a few two baskets there.
Well, I'm just noticing now as well. So there's a game on tonight, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs. That's just finished.
Yeah, who
And
won?
Bulldogs won by 3 goals,
Oh, there you go.
which I'm pretty happy with because I always like to see Collingwood lose.
Well, there's twofold because the Bulldogs are inconsistent. So if they win, they've won this week, they'll probably lose next week, and that means that we'll win.
Could be a win-win for us.
Yeah, but the other thing is Collingwood lost, and I'm happy with that.
True. That's always a good one for me.
As much as I'm not a fan of the Western Bulldogs, I do have a relative currently on their list. So, have to have a soft spot for them allegedly.
That's true.
Yeah, and screw Collingwood, I can't have them.
Yep. No.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do us. I'll get this bloody All Australian thing out in the next couple of days as well.
You've been teasing us for a week or so now, Ash.
Mate, I have dead set re-recorded the whole thing. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a pretty long episode for us. Even
considering
for
there was no footy to talk about, yeah.
Yeah. But it is what it is. And big shout out to all our listeners. The current episode, I don't know the exact number of listens, but I do know that in the last, what day did we go to air with that yesterday?
Yeah.
We've had a total of over 2,000 listens across all of our episodes in that time period.
It's pretty good.
So basically, I just get the figures on a total amount of listens across one platform.
Yep.
And that's 45% of all of our listens. So, yeah, really, really appreciate everybody's support. It's great. And yeah, now having sort of people that I consider my personal friends telling me that they're listening and ringing me or sending me messages to say, oh, yeah, I heard this part and that part, and it was pretty funny when you said Daddy Fagan or whatever.
Well, it's good when you're not nagging them to watch it and they're genuinely seeking the content.
And I've intentionally not sort of chased down sort of our friendship group in that regard.
I've only told 2 out of people that we're not mutually friends with. I've only told 2 people in my personal life, my partner, who knows I record, obviously, and my father. I haven't told any of my non-footy friends that I'm doing it because it's I'm proud of it and I'm happy to do it, but I'm not trying to push it out there. For people, if they find it, if they want to listen, that's all good. Like, that's great. That's what we're here for.
And that's it. And look, we're not here to pass judgment on players' personal lives or their personalities or anything like that. We're purely going to judge them as footballers. And again, we're not experts on the game. I've got some coaching credentials, but I don't consider myself qualified enough to pass judgment on how the game pans out. Only on my observations, and you're the same.
Yep.
We're at the end of the day, we're just a couple of Brisbane Lions and footy in general nuffies.
That's exactly right.
And we love the fact that you guys checking in to have a listen.
Yep, listen in with us and have a chat with us in the comments.
Yeah, and if anyone ever wants to come on as a guest, just drop us a line.
Yep.
You don't have to be a former player or a current player or an administrator or a coach or a celebrity. You can just be old mate down the road, and you want to drop in and have a coffee with me and get a microphone shoved in front of your face.
Yep. Sounds like a plan. We've had a few guests on already at this stage anyway. Yeah,
that's right. And I'm still working on a couple of guests at the moment, but timing isn't always the best with some people. So
true.
Busy time of the year for some. So we'll get there. All right. Yep. Let's get out of here.
All right. I'll see you during the week.
No worries.
See you, mate.
Have a good one.